Hello, I'm Jake Boudrot, Civic Journalist at Tello Community Television. This week, on The Record, I spoke with a representative of the Canadian National Institute for the Blind about a recent tour of Cape Breton. Eastern County's Regional Library is doing planning and consulting in local communities. Host families are being sought for international students. But first, the case of a Richmond County couple facing sex charges involving a minor. A mistrial was declared and a charge was dropped against Daryl Lawrence Degout and Shelley Dawn Degout. On the first day of the trial, on October 28th, in Port Hawkesbury Provincial Court, Nova Scotia Public Prosecution Services said the Crown offered no evidence on a sexual exploitation charge faced by the couple, and it was dismissed by the judge. As the matter progressed, PPS said the judge found herself in a conflict and declared a mistrial. PPS added there will be a new trial on the remaining charges: sexual assault, sexual interference, and failure to appear, involving both accused. The new trial judge and dates have not yet been determined, PPS noted. On May 26, 2023, Richmond County District RCMP received a report of possible sexual exploitation involving Daryl and Shelley Degout. Upon investigating, the RCMP determined that in 2020, a young person was sexually assaulted by the Degouts. On May 29th, RCMP officers arrested the couple at a home in Barra Head. They were jointly charged with sexual assault, sexual interference, and sexual exploitation. Richmond County District RCMP said at the time there may be additional victims connected to the Degouts, and they were encouraging others to come forward. Richmond County District RCMP said in a press release issued just before midnight on June 9th, 2023, that they were notified at 6:45 p.m. that day that the Degouts were missing. The RCMP said at the time that they received a missing person report from a person who knows the Degouts. On July 27th, at around 5 p.m., the RCMP confirmed that they located the Degouts in Lynch's River after a member of the public called in a sighting. The RCMP said the Degouts were arrested for failing to appear for their fingerprints, as required as part of their release when they were arrested in May 2023. On August 28, 2023, in Port Hawkesbury Provincial Court, Daryl and Shelley Degout were arraigned on charges of sexual assault, sexual interference, and sexual exploitation, according to Nova Scotia Public Prosecution Services. Despite going missing after being charged, the Degouts were released from custody. On October 12, 2023, in Port Hawkesbury Provincial Court, Daryl and Shelley Degout pleaded not guilty to charges of failing to appear in court and being at large on a confirmed undertaking, as well as sexual assault, sexual interference, and sexual exploitation. The Degouts later confirmed that they wanted to represent themselves and proceed with a joint trial. So with me is Shelley Adams. She is the Manager of Advocacy for Atlantic Canada with the Canadian National Institute of the Blind. Welcome.
Thank you.
I understand that the CNIB did a tour of Cape Breton, including stops in local communities such as Arishat, I believe it was on June 13th at the New Horizon Center, and in Discouse at the Discouse Civic Improvement Hall. And
Yes.
just maybe get an idea from you how those stops went. I know I did go to Arishat in June, and there was a decent crowd there, and so just want to get a take from you on how things went.
Yeah, it was really, really successful. I don't remember how many people were there, but I think, maybe 20, 25. That's a big crowd for us, especially when we're in Cape Breton or in rural communities. So we were really excited to have that kind of a turnout.
Yeah, no, that's great. I'm glad you did have a good turnout. So maybe you can talk about the reason for the tour and what the goals were going into these local sessions.
Yeah, so we like to we have an office here in Halifax, our main office for Nova Scotia, but of course we service all people with sight loss throughout the country, but our staff services everybody throughout Nova Scotia. So we try and we're trying more and more to get out into rural communities, especially to educate not just people with sight loss, but other community members on who we are and what we do. So, what programs we offer, the volunteer opportunities that we offer, educate on the types of adaptive technology that are available for people to use who have sight loss. We talk about advocacy, guide dog access, and awareness, all of those things. So, when we were there in June, we focused on those types of things, who we are and what we do and what we can offer people in Nova Scotia with sight loss, or like I said, volunteer opportunities as well. When we were there in June, it was our first time in Ayrshire. So we wanted to make sure that we gave the community a lot of information on who we are and what we do, whether it's programs and services that are available to people living with sight loss, or also volunteer opportunities for people with sight loss, but also um, people who are sighted to if they're interested in helping out with some volunteering throughout the province.
Now, you mentioned that a resident of Almadam did reach out to you guys showing some interest in having a local session here, and maybe you can talk a little bit about that.
So we did have somebody from the local community reach out to us, and I believe I've spoken to her at this point, but back then it wasn't me that she was communicating with, but my understanding is that there were people in the community who have sight loss or have loved ones with sight loss who were interested in finding out more from us. In the past, I think we had mainly gone to Sydney, and then we would stop in communities along the way if we had individuals who were needing some of our services, but we had never set up, uh, we call them mobile hubs in any, I don't think in any other community in Cape Breton. So um, I'm not sure if she had heard about us traveling around, going to Sydney, different things like that, but definitely she reached out, said she had a lot of interest and a place that we could meet, and so that's how this all started.
Mhm.
So we did the session in June, and then we were back again in September. September's session focused more on technology. So our technology specialist brought a bunch of tech, and it's not all complicated tech. We'll bring an Amazon Alexa or a Google Home. Um, there's lots of apps that people can use on their phone that will work well if to enlarge the font, or you can listen to your phone speaking, and just so many apps that are great for people with sight loss. Um, so yeah, just giving them sort of an overview on what technology can do to enhance your life if you have sight loss. And a lot of people are apprehensive when it comes to learning new technology. Uh, you know, Older people, people with sight loss thinking, oh, no, no, I'd never be able to do that. And we'll show them some very simple tricks and tips on how to use technology to their advantage that that's very easy to understand, and it's not high tech complicated stuff that we're showing people unless they want to learn that, that's fine. But being able to ask Alexa, about what's happening in sports today, or what the weather is, or tell me the news, those kinds of things, that's been a game changer for people with sight loss. So we really focused on technology the last time we were there.
What type of feedback did you guys receive from the participants at these sessions?
We received really great feedback. I think participants were very happy that we were, taking the time to stop in their community and educate them on what is available. And I think that's, leading to more partnerships in that community with other organizations, as well as creating relationships with people with sight loss, working with them individually now, maybe on some technology things or some advocacy. Another benefit to us going out and running programs like this is it's a really great social activity for people. Um, a lot of people with sight loss feel like they're the only one in their community, especially if they're in a small community. You can feel isolation and all of those things. So bringing people together, they get to know each other, friendships and relationships can be built that way. So that can also lead to, great, better mental health. Um, and like I said, friendships and all of that. So lots of benefits are coming out of us kind of
Mhm.
starting this group with the individual who reached out to us. And our hope is that it will continue on a monthly basis, because I think that's the plan. But we're not always going to be able to be there, because there's only so many of us and we have a whole province to sort of travel around. So we're hoping that this will be able to sustain itself moving forward.
Now, when I spoke to the CNIB, you guys said the sessions were open to all residents, and there are opportunities to see how they can help, CNIB can help with peer support, technology, advocacy, accessibility programming, and tech support, as you mentioned. And you guys also noted that the public was even asked to take their own devices to the meeting, and I assume that was helpful, to help walk these people through some of the technology that they have and how to properly use it and use it to its full potential, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. So whenever we do a tech session, we always invite people to bring their own technology, and that way we're able to show them the different apps that might be available on their phones or iPads, different things they're able to do. There's also an audiobook library that through the public library that will educate people on so they can listen to books. And it's really great. And sometimes we'll have a family member come, whether their family member with sight loss is with them or not, they will come. They have the opportunity to learn, and we can teach them. Here's a few little trip, sorry, ugh,
Tech
tips
trips,
and
tech
tricks
tips.
that you can share with your family member, and then if they want further training, we can always work with them individually. So, because it's a lot to learn in one session, but it's so eye-opening, I'll say, to learn what is available out there. So,
Hmm. Yeah, it seems like they went well and well attended and a lot of feedback and people seem to get a lot out of those sessions, which I guess is a success in any measure. And so you mentioned you guys are going to be coming back to discuss, I believe you said next week, is your schedule to. So do you plan on making more trips or is it a matter of just getting people to kind of demand this, or do you have other plans on coming back here or in the general region in the near future?
yeah, so next week, myself and a colleague are going to be in Discourse, running a Know Your Rights workshop. Basically, we're going to be focusing, because we've already sort of focused on the programs and services, the socials, the peer support, the technology, and all of that. This session is going to focus more on advocacy and accessibility and awareness. So we're going to talk a lot about what people's rights are as someone with a disability when it comes to housing and education and built environment and transportation, and kind of get into some of the more legal type stuff, if people are feeling discriminated against. But we also want to take time to hear from community members what their concerns are when it comes to accessibility and transportation and the built environment. If I I've actually never been to that community, so I'm really excited to go, but I don't know if there's any audible pedestrian signals or anything like that. Usually in small towns, there aren't. So just talking about all of the things that would make it easier for people to access their town in an accessible way. Um, and I also run self-advocacy workshops, so I'll be talking about that too. So if people do want to do, work with myself on how to become a better advocate for themselves, how to become a little bit more confident in advocating or speaking up for themselves, I'll also be chatting about that. And I would love to have the opportunity to go back in the future and run my speaking out and speaking up workshop for that group if they're interested. So I think after next week, uh, we usually travel to Cape Breton 2 or 3 times a year. So we may not be back until the spring, but we do hope that the group continues to meet with under the, I guess, guidance of the resident who reached out to us. We're hoping, and I think it is her plan to keep it going. So we may also be able to come in virtually if there's specific topics people want to learn about. And so yeah, we may not be around in person for a while, but we'll still be available.
Yeah, it's interesting you bring that up because maybe you can mention if individuals, organizations, or communities are interested in hosting a session, how would they go about doing that?
Yeah, so there's all kinds of presentations and sessions that we can do, even with organizations, whether it's talking about, you know, um, the difference, but I've been doing a lot of presentations lately about the differences between guide dogs, service dogs, therapy dogs, emotional support dogs, all those things, access for and what the rights are of each type of dog. And we can do presentations on that. We can do just generic presentations on what CNIB does, volunteer opportunities, all of that. So if there are organizations or other groups of people who are interested, they can always get in touch with us and we can, you know, get them in touch with the right person and set something up. That's easy. That's easy for us to do.
Mhm. Is there any contact information that people should have or should be aware of to for this process?
Jake, if you look online, there's a 1-800 number for CNIB. If you just go to cnib.ca,
Hmm.
that's probably the best way for people to get in touch with us is phone the 1-800 number, let them know where they're calling from. And I mean, they can also talk to the individual that we both know who's in the community and she can get in touch with us. But because I mean, I can give my email and my phone number, and I don't mind doing that. And
Hmm.
I can email that to you. Well, you have it in my signature. So if you want to give
Yes.
that out,
Hmm.
if anyone is interested in presentations, anything to do with advocacy, public awareness, all of that, you can also just give my email and phone number and they can contact me directly.
Yes, yeah, I do have that information, and yeah, I can make that available to our viewers. And I really appreciate you making time out of your busy day and your busy schedule to speak with me and talk to our viewers and explain what you guys are doing and how people can benefit from your organization. So it's much appreciated on this end.
Yeah, well, thank you for reaching out. We always like to, having people aware of what we are doing and who we are is so important because there's still so many people who don't understand what CNIB is or they've never heard of CNIB. And there's a lot of people out there who can benefit from what we do. You do not have to be completely blind to come to CNIB, and I think that's a big misconception that people have. Only about 10% of our clients are completely blind. So there's lots of people who still have usable vision, but are struggling in certain ways and would like to have that, to know that we're there and we can also make connections with other people in their communities so that they don't feel isolated and alone.
Eastern County's regional library said it received a $42,000 grant from the Library Development Fund to conduct strategic planning and community engagement to identify future priorities. The ECRL said its board began work on this project in August. The engagement process will include consultation with key stakeholders such as municipal partners, ECRL staff across the service area, and the public. Eastern County's regional libraries said it wants to encourage community members to participate in upcoming sessions, and ATN consultants were retained to coordinate the project and gather crucial input to inform the strategic plan. The consultants will seek community input at library locations and online. ATN consultants will hold public engagement sessions at the Petit de Gras Library on Friday, November 15th from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. They will also be at the Port Hawkesbury Public Library on Saturday, November 16th from 10:30 a.m. to 12 p.m. The consultants will also host a virtual Zoom session on Thursday, November 21st from 6 to 8 p.m. With me today is Chris Penny, who's the manager of the International Student Program for the Strait Regional Center for Education. Welcome.
Thank you.
So I understand that there's a need for host families in the region. Maybe you can talk about that need. How many are you looking at, and how short are you of host families?
So we're always looking for host families. It's not that we have a specific number currently we're looking for. We're always looking for those families for different opportunities. Sometimes we have students that want to come for shorter stays, under 3 months. We have students that want to come for the semester. We have students that want to come for the full academic year. And then we just have circumstances where a host family may go away for a weekend or go away for a vacation. And we just call those respite homes to kind of fill in the place of the host family while they're away. So we're looking for a variety of families for different lengths of time, and we're always looking, but currently we're looking for February. So we are expecting at a minimum of about 28 new international students coming at the beginning of February to study for the academic semester. So anyone who wants to join, we'd love to have you.
Perhaps get you to describe the International Student Program, maybe as we're talking previously, how it started and when, and what is entailed.
So the International Student Program is a provincial program that includes all 7 English regional centers for education, as well as the French School Board, CSAP. Every year, the full academic year, we bring in provincially about 1,500 to 2,000 international high school and junior high students. It started in 1997, and we started with 1 student, and now we're above about 1,500. So it's grown exponentially over the years, and we're very happy to be back after COVID. We were shut down, but we're happy and regrowing the program in different ways. In the Strait, we have about 90 international students currently with us between our 4 counties. We have about 50 host families who join us. Some have been around since almost the beginning, some are newer, and some are in the middle. So we are very happy with the growth we've seen in the Strait, and our main purpose, the purpose of the international program when it was started, was to ensure that every Nova Scotian can say, I have a friend from a different country. We want to bring the world to Nova Scotia, as Nova Scotians aren't always traveling abroad to see different places. So we wanted to bring the world and the culture to them, and that is how this program started.
So how would local families apply to become host families in the program?
So if families are interested, they can reach out to the regional center, and they will be put in contact with me. They can email me directly, and my email is chris.penny, Penny, @srce.ca, or by phone at 902-631-5170. We are often posting Facebook ads and Facebook campaigns, so they can reach out through our Facebook page, which is Nova Scotia International Student Program SRCE, or if they know the local coordinator, depending what area they're in, they can reach out to the local coordinator directly.
What is the criteria for people to be accepted as a host family?
So that's a very good question. We often have host families that are older that say, no, we're too old to host. But we have young families that are, we have young children, we can't host. So we have families that think they can host, but we want to show the diversity of the families in Nova Scotia. So anyone can host. They do have to submit a criminal record check with a vulnerable sector check, as well as a child abuse registry check. They must have a private bedroom for the student, and that bedroom has to include a bed, somewhere to put clothes, the basic necessities of a bedroom. We do recommend a desk, but it's definitely not a deal breaker to host a student. And we want the host families to treat the students like a member of the family. We want the families to gain another family member, not just a boarding experience, not just someone renting out a room. We want them to take part in family activities, whether it's going on hikes, whether it's doing family chores, whether it's out sightseeing, whatever it may be. We want the student to be included with your family, because we want you as a family to take away a cultural component as well as the student. So the student is coming here to learn English and culture, but we want our families to also take away the cultural aspect as well, and gain a new family member from this.
So essentially the families just function as normal. It's just a matter of incorporating these international students into their lives and their everyday.
Exactly. And then having the criminal record check, child abuse registry, the bedroom, and providing 3 meals a day. So basically just you keep living your life and you're just integrating someone new. When we explain to the students what the expectations are, we do explain it's not Disney World. So it's not doing sightseeing every single day. It might be doing sightseeing on the weekend, but it's also, showing the customs, what celebrations we as Nova Scotians have, learning about the celebrations of the student, and just seeing that culture come together from both parts. So just being welcoming and being open to having a new family member is one of the main criteria.
So I know you've mentioned you gave a number as to how many host families there are. What does the range there? Like how many in a given year how many host families do you have, and how many international students do you receive in a given year? I guess on an average or within a range.
So our average post-COVID is about 80 international students, and that fluctuates based on the time of year, because we have students that come for a month and then leave. They kind of come throughout the year in waves. We have the students that come for the semester, and then we have the students that come for the full year. But the average, I'd say, right now is about 80. We have about 80% of our families returning to host the next year. And then 20% of the families either take a break, life has changed, and we understand that we are coming into your life. So we understand life changes and things happen. So we are flexible, and that's why we have students who come for different amounts of study time, because we want people to be able to host based on what is possible with their life. So if you know that your job gets extremely busy come February, March, April, we have students that you could host first semester September to the end of January. And then even if you finished your busy time and knew that you wanted to host April, May, June, we have students that come in those times as well.
So is there a need in any specific area within the Strait Regional Center for Education, like within a specific county, or specific school communities?
So Richmond and Guysborough County are probably the two counties that are in the most need. They are the less densely populated areas for the most part. So it's just trying to get the word out there. Know that we would love to see it grow, again, not because of any specific numbers, and we don't have a specific number we have to meet, but we want all of our Canadian Nova Scotian students to be able to say, I have a friend from Chile or Japan or Germany, and know that for the future, it will impact them in the best way possible.
And I suppose not just students that are enriched, communities and schools are also benefit from having these international students in their schools and in their communities.
Exactly, and that's a great point. I remember we had a student in my history class from Germany, and they were talking about the war. And when we talk about the war, we talk about it from a very Canadian perspective of how Canada was integrated into the war. Well, to have a German sense of the war gives a whole different perspective on it. So it allows you to see the material you're learning in school, whether it be history, whether it be sociology, whether it be anything, from a different cultural lens, which is extremely important. So it adds to the school community. It also gets, I mean, in that circumstance, the teacher was talking in a very Canadian sense. So it made the teacher change their way of thinking when teaching about the war as well. In the communities, you know, it's an economic benefit, it's a cultural benefit. These students are not accounted for in any you know, numbers game that is governmental. So it's kind of drop in, they're spending their money, some of their natural families come and visit, they're spending money. So it's a benefit to everyone in the long run. Like you said, not just the students, not just the host families, but the greater school community and the greater community at large.
Well, that's great. I really appreciate you taking time out of your day to answer my questions and speak with our viewers about this international student program. Thank you. Thank you for watching. Please tune in again to find out what we will be talking about on The Record.